everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. I'm jumping on here very randomly because I am reading my first Omega romance, and I'm reading it part of my 12 Facts from 12 Friends. And I thought, why don't I vlog this, because I have no idea about Omega. I'm totally clueless. I always am intimidated by it, and Jess from Bessie Book Reviews had recommended this book to me. And so I was very excited because it was finally forcing me into trying Omega. Or Omegaverse, sorry. Again, I'm clueless. I don't know I know there's a lot of different variations of it, but I'm very confused by Omegaverse. So this will be my foray into Omegaverse. So I thought, why don't I vlog it? We'll just see how it goes. The book that I am going to be reading is Trist in the Dark by, I think it's Grace McKenty. Hold on, let me double check here. Okay, sorry. Yes, it is Grace McKenty. So I actually already started. I didn't get that far into it yet because I am also trying to finish rereading A Court of Mist and Fury and annotating that, so that kind of took priority a little bit. But I am about like 16% through, and so it is definitely interesting. So we're gonna see how I feel about this whole Omegaverse, but we'll see. Hopefully I like it. I don't know. I'm scared. Anyways, let's get this vlog started. Okay guys, sorry for that crazy intro. I'm just kind of all over the place. I just happened to film my weekly wrap up and like also another video, and so I'm just decided to randomly vlog this because I have no idea what I'm doing here in Omegaverse land, but I want to learn. I want to figure it out. I want to see if it's what I'm interested in. Now, I don't know if this is like the usual way Omegaverse is, because there's so many different variations of it. But in this, it does have a very interesting setup. Our heroine is Trist, and she is a Omega. Is that it? So confused. Hold on a sec. Okay, you guys, sorry about that. Yes, she's an Omega. You can tell I'm a newbie. I don't know what I'm doing, so don't come after me. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to Omegaverse. I just hope I freaking get it. So anyways, Trist is our heroine. She's an Omega, and it turns out in this, I don't know if this is how usual Omegaverse is, but in this variation, Omegas are very scarce, and you know, they're very needed, and so there's this whole thing called the Allotment, and it basically forces Omegas to kind of be put in like this lottery where like they draw the guys, they'll be put like multiple guys to be in this relationship, but they'll like do kind of like a lottery system, and then they pull your number and you are forced to basically drop everything and you're gonna be with this Omega. So I don't know if that's how things, so there's Omegas, betas, and alphas. And so let me go to some of my highlights, because I started highlighting things so I could try to figure this out. Bear with me just a sec. Okay, sorry guys. All right, so basically Trist was kind of forced into this. We don't really have a lot of background. It just opens up where she's like in this house. She's being guarded. She's locked in this room because she's tried to escape. And I think this organization is called DODA or something. And they have like guards watching her and waiting for this first drawing. And so she gets, she's in the allotment, and a number comes up, and it ends up being a beta. And so this guy is good looking. He's very like cinnamon roll, sweet guy. He ends up being her first guy that's going to be picked. So I don't know if how many guys she's going to have, or if that's usual in Omegaverse, but this is a reverse harem Omegaverse. So I think that's why it's like this. But I found it interesting because it did say when an Omega had sex with a beta or exchanged any kind of blood or sexual fluids, they essentially bound the beta to them for life. So that's why, like, she had never had sex before because she didn't want to, like, no beta is going to want to have sex with her and then, like, be mated to her for life or anything. So she's actually, like, a virgin when this starts. And so she ends up, hold on, let me get this guy's name. Okay, yeah, so her first pick is Grady. I think he was like a mechanic or something. He was actually bi and he had a partner, like somebody he really loved. So it was really nuanced and sweet where she felt so guilty, you know, that she was taking him away from like somebody he loved. But the DODA wouldn't recognize that as a real, because you don't get forced in this if you're like in a relationship, but they wouldn't recognize that because it was a man, which is BS. But anyways, so he's forced away from like the man he's in love with to come be her, you know, first beta. And so they end up having sex. It was pretty hot. She did have to have somebody from the DODA watch her, and there's this mean bitch that's like kind of running her, and she did not want her watching, so she picked the guard, like her most recent guard that she's been kind of friendly with. She really likes him. She's kind of, he doesn't treat her like the other guards had treated her. I think his name was RJ. And so I kind of wonder if something's going to happen with RJ too, because they kind of have a connection, because while she was having sex with Grady, he's like, oh, I'll just be over in the corner, just pretend like I'm not here, you know, trying to give them privacy and be respectful. But when she was like riding Grady, she like looked over and RJ was like really watching her and getting off on it. So she was like kind of eye fucking him while they were fucking. So I'm kind of like, I'm feeling a connection between her and RJ too. But I really liked Grady. He was super sweet, very attentive. So I really liked her first pick. And I think that was nice that she got that kind of sweet guy for the first time since she was a virgin. So when they have sex, you know, it's going to like bond them like for life or whatever by exchanging the whatever bodily fluids. But anyways, so then the other thing that it brings up is alphas. So alphas are different. I don't think they like, if they have sex with her, they wouldn't be bonded to her for life. And alphas are very like high, you know, up, and they're the successful billionaire or, you know, those dominant kind of guys, I guess. So in this, it says with alphas, it was a little different. They were less likely to accidentally bond a person, though they could tie themselves to betas and omegas with blood and bodily fluids, but it also took a bite, a claiming mark of teeth during sex, so there were rarely any accidental bitings with alphas. So I found that interesting. All this is very interesting to me because it's so new to me. So then we're going to have the second person get drawn, and it ends up being an alpha. And he ends up being like this billionaire security kind of developer that helped, like, I guess the world kind of fell apart and a lot of the technology fell by the wayside. And he was one of the people that like developed it and got internet back up and all that kind of stuff. So he's really fucking rich. And so he's going to be the next part of her group yet. I haven't got to him showing up yet because the same day I think that was going to happen, she like wakes up in bed with Grady to another man in her bed. And lo and behold, it's Grady's lover, his partner. And so this guy had found out where they were, and he was like, let's take some power back from the DODA. You know, I can switch just my blood with you. You don't have to sex with me yet, but I will be loyal to you. That way I can be with Grady and we can all be together. I'll be a loyal partner to you. And she has such a sweet heart. Like, she feels so bad for him and like wants Grady to be happy. And she's like, but you're gay. And he's like, no, honey, like, I'm definitely into you. I would definitely be for it. So he's definitely okay doing that. And so they end up doing like just basically sharing blood. And the DODA is not happy about this, but she's just like, whatever. So now she has him as like another beta. And so now we're waiting to get to the alpha coming right now. So very interesting. I'm liking it so far. It's pretty, I like Miss Grace McGinty's writing. It's very easy to read. It sucks you in. A lot of banter and funniness. And the first sex scene was pretty hot. So I'm sure we'll even get more. I don't know how many partners this chick is going to have. So it should be interesting. But anyways, I'm diving in. I'm trying Omegaverse. Please don't get mad at me if I don't know what the F I'm talking about, because I don't. I'm really going to try and see if I like Omegaverse and then try other ones. So if you have a favorite Omegaverse out there that you want to introduce to me, let me know. So anyways, I'm going to get going. I got a lot to do. I got to keep doing my A Court of Mist and Fury. I got to read this. So I will check back in with you once I'm a little bit further into the book. Hey guys, I am back with a check-in on this crazy Omegaverse. I am about, I think like 56% through the book. I've kind of had to take breaks from it because I'm trying to do Court of Mist and Fury and annotating that. So this is taking me longer than it probably would have usually. But I am still engaged. I'm still interested. I do find this all very interesting. And a lot has happened. So I think in my last check-in, I brought up the two guys that she was with. Grady was the first boy, the first guy that was mated with her. He was in love with, I think, what's his name? Corin. And Corin ends up finding them and basically like bonds with her so that he can be with his boyfriend, but he's still really into her too. So it wasn't like they were just using her. And she's very sensitive to that. So what ends up blowing up, though, is she is matched with her first alpha. And he's like this billionaire guy. His name is Ramsey Hart. And he's like a billionaire. He, I think, helped rebuild the world with like technology and stuff. And so he's very high up, very powerful alpha. And he shows up and he immediately scents her. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And the people, the DODA people are like, the agency are like freaking out. They're basically like government that like makes them do this. And they like freak out. They're like, what's going on? He's like, she's in freaking heat right now, which that's why they do it younger, is so that they do this allotment earlier in her life so that she doesn't or going through her first heat. But she's going through it. And so he's like, this is bullshit. We need to set up a nest for her. All this kind of stuff. And I'm like, a nest? But okay, I guess, you know, they're like their wolf creature, I'm guessing. I don't know if that's right. But it very much reminds you of like shifters, except they can't shift. So he sets up the nest for her and everything. And so she is like really in a lot of pain going through her first heat, and she needs his knot, and she needs it now, which I love shifter, romances. Okay, sorry, my cat was scratching the rug over there. Anyways, I love shifter romances or like almost beast romances where like the guy's got a knot, but in this they're just regular humans that happen to be alphas. And so she's really needs his knot, and he's having sex with her and she's like, please give me your knot. And he kind of like freaks out. The whole time he was kind of looking at her very like bored looking or cold, and he just leaves her. And she's like, what the hell? Like, he kind of abandoned her through her heat, and the heat lasts for like days. And so the other two guys have to come in and basically like kind of do DP, double penetration, both dicks in the same, you know, together. So it would kind of almost feel like a knot or be, so this is crazy. But, you know, they basically have to like have sex with her around the clock because he completely abandoned her. And so that was really devastating for her that he, you know, left her. She feels rejected. It reminded me of like the Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate or whatever by Casey Wells. Anyways, so he kind of like left her, and then she ends up getting matched to another alpha, which is Casey, and he shows up. He's tatted, he's like badass, he's very alpha, and he does not want to beat there. They like literally beat the shit out of him and made him come, and it turns out he's from Boston and he's in the Irish mafia, and so he didn't want to leave after all the work he did to get where he's at. But the moment he has sex with her, you know, he finds out what had happened to her with the other guy. And, you know, he basically, once he has sex with her, he's in. Like, once he's bonded to her, which the other guy bit her and bonded to her and then left her. And that will make her feel like lots of pain and emptiness. So this guy is just a fucking asshole. So Casey's all in after that point, and, you know, Ramsey, like, is it Ramsey? Yeah, Ramsey shows up again later and wants to talk to her, and he basically tells her, you know, his mother had committed suicide. She was an Omega, and she had a whole pack, and none of them loved her or cared about her, and they all kind of hated each other. And I think she ended up killing herself, and she had different kids from each of the guys, and they all, like, took their kids and left. So he's like, you know, once you're in your heat, if I knot you, there's a higher chance of you getting pregnant, and I don't want that. But instead of, like, just talking it out or waiting it out, he basically tells her that he's gonna go to the government and the DOJ because he's got a lot of power, and kind of like a divorce for them. And so she's, like, devastated, and, you know, Casey kicks his ass, although they're both kicking each other's ass because they're both alphas, and just a lot of hell breaks out. And so this lady that's like her handler kind of thing is such a fucking bitch. And they're still trying to work through everything and be mated and figure things out. And then she's like, well, we need to hurry this up because now there's going to be a big court case on this whole divorce proceeding. And so they're freaking out about how this looks for the government and DODA. And so they, like, rushed it. And all of a sudden she had 2 other matches at once. And then they end up being twins. But they end up being amazing guys. One's alpha, one's a beta. And they just can't, like, not be together. And so that is Akio and Jack. And so, you know, they're super sweet. They're a great addition. Akio's kind of more straight-laced. Jack, the beta twin, is, like, open to sword crossing because Corin is really trying to get everybody to do an orgy and get involved with each other. But Casey's like, no, dude, like, we'll share her, but you're not getting your thing anywhere near me, which was funny. So they end up having to rush through the mating with that, and then they have to go to New York to this court proceeding, basically. And there's all these protesters, and it's just a horrible thing. And she gets, like, kind of separated from everybody, and Kenzie, like, ends up saving her and getting her in the van, but he still, like, isn't. And he looks like shit because obviously the bond is, it's, like, killing him to be apart from her too. So basically Casey's like, I'm taking you guys to my penthouse in Boston. It's got a lot of security, plus it's all family that lives there. So that's where they're at now. They are in his place. He got his shit beat out of him, but he's an alpha, so I guess they heal faster, which I found interesting. So this whole alpha beta thing is very interesting. The heat thing is interesting. So I'm still waiting because her and RJ have this connection. He's one of the kind of, like, handler guards that worked for the government, and he, like, goes up to her when they were gonna leave. And he was like, you know, if it would have been different, I would have done anything to make you love me. And he, like, kisses her and stuff. And so she's got a big connection to him. He ends up being there at the court because he was going to have to testify. So he basically ends up taking over for their security since the other people don't want to get involved. So now RJ's in the picture again. And I'm just hoping that he can be in this pack because I love RJ and I think they have a very natural connection. So I don't know, that's where I'm at. We shall see how I feel about this book. It seems like a lot of guys to be able to handle at once, but anyways, I'm still enjoying it. So this is my first Omegaverse. I don't know if they're all like this, but I do find the alpha beta thing kind of interesting, this whole government setup. I wish there was more about it, like how they started or where did the alpha beta thing come from. Like, I don't know. I kind of wanted more. You're just kind of thrown into the world. And that might be because, like, this is a book that everybody, like, already knows Omegaverse and I just don't know. So Anyways, I'm going to get back to it because I really want to finish it tonight. And I will check back in with you guys once I finish it. Hey guys, so I am just doing my final check-in on Trist in the Dark. I finished reading it late last night. And I had a really good time. I mean, it wasn't the perfect book. I think there was a lot of stuff that could have been fleshed out a little bit more. But I really enjoyed it. I think it was a good first book for my foray into Omegaverse. A lot goes down in the last half of the book, obviously, or last 40%. Because she and her mates have to go to that hearing. Ends up being this big court hearing that's kind of pushing the courts and Supreme Court and everything into looking at Omega rights. And so there's lots of protesters, like I said before, and they end up going back to Casey's place, and she meets like his family, and you know, it's all very interesting. I love Casey. He's like my favorite. Of course, it's the mafia guy is going to be my favorite out of the group. Who would have thought? But so they end up having to, they kind of get to do things like away, like from the court proceedings until like the last day, and they show up, and obviously does not go in their favor, and the court goes against this, you know, divorce or whatever, and it's like kind of ignoring all of these Omega rights kind of issues the lawyers were bringing up. And her mate that basically denied her, what was it, Kemsey? I'm sorry, I forgot the name already. He basically got mad, and he's like, she's a human being, she's a person, she deserves rights. And so you kind of got the feeling like he was doing this to further like Omega rights too. But I think because of like his family, his hangups with like what happened to his mother and her mates. So I don't know. So basically he's the first alpha. So they take on his name. And then since they basically said, no, you can't get this divorce, they have to be together. So after all of this, like now they have to go like live with him. And they have to figure out where they're all going to move to, if they're going to stay there. He kind of says, you know, we should find another place so it's not like your visitors or don't feel welcome, like this was my place, we can find a new place kind of thing. So they kind of hash it out. She forgives him pretty quickly. I don't think he had to do a lot of groveling in this, but I didn't mind it because I really loved Trist's character. She was very empathetic, and she was always very sensitive and caring to each of her mates. And so it just kind of made sense. He was like a hole in her life because he was her mate, and she felt not complete when he wasn't there. And so obviously they need to make this work. So they're all living together, and he gives her her own like little room, and he's like, this could be yours away from all of us, so you have your own space. So, you know, he's not a horrible guy. So, you know, she forgives him, and they end up messing around and stuff like that. But what ends up happening is she gets pregnant. And she doesn't know who the father is, but she basically gets, he wants her set up with the best doctor. And so she's going to the doctor's appointment with Casey. And I knew something shady was happening right off the bat, but like they told her to go in a room to get changed into her, like the gown thing, and then go down to the doctor's office. I'm like, that never fucking happens. But anyway, she gets drugged and attacked there and kidnapped. And it ended up being the DODA, but it was like this really weird, like younger doctor that's like trying to experiment with omegas and all this stuff. But he wants to do it for like the betterment and helping people, you know, with giving birth and all that kind of stuff. And DODA is like doing it for nefarious reasons. So he kind of gets on her side, but a lot goes down. She gets kidnapped, and they have to find her. And they go to, is it JR? RJ? RJ. I'm forgetting everybody's names already. They go to RJ for help, so because he knows where she's actually located. And so they end up rescuing her and all of that. And so when everything's fine, they're all settled and they go back home. They end up doing like gonna have an orgy, and she says, you know, no, I need RJ. He's missing. Like, I need him. I want him. And so they basically call him up and he comes a running, and it was just cool because now he's part of the pack. And so they decide that it's not safe for her there because anything could happen with what they're doing with Omegas, and they're just saying it's not safe. And so they decide to go to Canada where they don't have these horrible laws with like Omegas and this allotment thing that they have to do. And I guess his dad, Kenzie's or whatever his name's dad, or parent, one of the parents, I think maybe his mom, was Canadian, so he could just, you know, do that. So if he's like the alpha, the pack, they call him the pack daddy, which he was like, don't call me that. So anyways, in the end, they end up going to Canada, and that's kind of where it left off, where they're going to be all living in a home up there. And so, I don't know, I really liked it. It did seem like, you know, I think there's another book or more in this series or something, so I'll definitely think about checking those out. The only thing that it was just kind of all over the place a little bit. It kind of didn't fully grab my attention. Sometimes I was distracted. And then the other thing is I just wanted more world building. I wanted more explanation about when they started this allotment. When did this whole like alpha beta thing happen? You know, all the laws. I just wanted more world building. And I think that was kind of a little bit lacking. It was like you were just thrown in there and told what's what. And I just wanted more info, like especially with all this stuff with the court proceedings and stuff. You don't really know the politics and everything that's going on. So that was like my only thing. I do think it could have been a little bit more fleshed out. But I think it's pretty good considering it's like, I think she had 7 mates or 6 mates. I can't remember. But that's a lot to put in like one book. So usually those reverse harems, you'll have like 5 books on like multiple guys, you know. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my first Omegaverse. Let me know if you have a favorite Omegaverse or one that you think I would love, because I want to give some more Omegaverse a try. So leave me a comment down below if you have any that you think is like the best, or like an author or whatever. But anyways, I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 4 chilies. There's lots of sex. The one complaint I did have is we were constantly alluded to a few of the guys were open. They were bisexual. They were open sexually. We didn't really get any sword crossing or MM scenes. It was always about her. And I get that's what reverse harems are, but like if they're bi, like, and we're doing an orgy, can we get more like guy stuff going on? Anyways, that was my only other complaint, but I had a great time. So thanks to Jessica and Mandy for recommending this, because this was my 12 recs from 12 friends, and it got me to read Omegaverse finally. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave me some comments down below, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next one.